Happy Red Friday, Chiefs Kingdom. We have a lot to discuss. Xavier Worthy has dropped his lawsuit. Justin Simmons doesn't want to play for KC. And are the Chiefs able to take a luxury pick in the draft? All that next on Gridiron Gambit.
Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in to this Red Kingdom Media production, bringing you raw, authentic Chiefs coverage. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on your team. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Let's work. Hey.
Welcome to this Friday evening edition of Gridiron Gambit. We are your co-hosts for tonight. I feel like I'm taking I'm taking Dale's spot when I say this, but I'm here with my partner in crime, Lonnie. How are you doing tonight, bro?
Good. Ready to talk some Chiefs football. Get on some different topics. Like we said, we were let down today in KC with the a start off to a bad series for the Royals. So hopefully we can brighten up our day with some good news, better news.
That's right. And the first topic isn't necessarily the best subject, but at least it has an ending, and I know we've been wanting to talk about that. But before we do anything, I gotta shout out my boy Louie in the chat. He just wanted me to let everybody know to get good at Fortnite. So that's just my one duty of service that I'm doing today. Before we jump into our topics, but I'll stop stalling and we'll get into the meat and potatoes. What you guys really wanted to talk about, our Chiefs coverage. So the Worthy drama has officially dropped, thankfully. Wednesday, regarding Xavier Worthy and his ex-fiancee. He is dropping this lawsuit, and the protective order in the civil case has officially been dismissed. He was found innocent shortly after the news came out about that, and that's all good that his name was cleared. And then the drama that came out that it's more on her part than it's his part. So just what are your overall thoughts regarding this? And do you think that this will be a distraction, or you feel like this is kind of that end point?
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be a distraction at all. I really think this is probably best for both parties. I think I'm hopeful that both parties can go on and move on and both have success. They both were great. Both are great at their careers. I know she runs track, and we all know what Xavier Worthy does, catches passes from Mahomes. But I seen just recently she was over in Jamaica. She looks like she ran the hurdles, looks like 100-meter hurdles, and won a track meet over there in Jamaica. So it looks like she's flourishing and she's doing well. I think this is probably just best for both parties. We've heard a ton of different information come out, whether it be through TMZ or different numerous NFL rumors or things like that of different private investigators or he say, she say. And I think this was just the best situation for both parties. It got ugly. It was once a romantic relationship that kind of turned public and then just got into the public eye a little bit too much over these past couple months. And some things came out that I really think should probably just stay private. Best not known about either party, and it was a lot of slander going back and forth. We know how divorces or not divorces, but just separations and leaving a partner can be. So I'm just thinking, all in all, I think this is the best thing for both parties. I don't see this as distracting Xavier Worthy going forward, being that he it looked like she was compensated and was essentially given what she wanted. So I don't think this will be a problem moving forward. I think he handled it in the right manner. In the way he had to handle it. And I wish both parties the best. And it looks like she's having a ton of success with whatever she's doing, which I think is running track. So shout out to her and shout out to him. But hopefully they both can go on and learn from it and move on and be better people.
Yeah. And, with the advent of social media and like the kind of invasion of media in general, especially when you're a professional athlete or celebrity in some fashion, these are things that like we as the public should not be able to have access to and learn about, but it's stuff that like kind of gets thrown at us, and then we have to kind of process information as it comes. So people have one opinion about how things are, what you should or shouldn't do, and then more evidence comes to light. So like in matters like this, you just wish that it wouldn't be exposed and would let the humans behind this, let their personal matters be settled by just the individuals involved and not have, other parties influencing or, getting to get the scoop on it. I just have a question for you, Lonnie. Do you feel like, is there any way to kind of vent out people that you may have this kind of inclination that, if you gain something or come into money or grow into fame, that you feel like a person might change? Do you feel like there's a way to kind of pick up on that, or is that kind of just random and you feel like, that's not something that you can kind of forecast and be able to avoid in the future? Because it's a shame that stories like this come out, and there keeps being these connections about it, and you just wonder, is there a way to kind of weasel these people or situations out of your life before they can be able to show themselves like this?
No, honestly, it's no way to take bad people out of the world. Unfortunately, so it's no way to stop things like this. You can't. You kind of just got to know your partner. That's why you really learn people before you. You see people go a long time without getting married. That's why you see people in relationships for a long time. You have to really learn and get to know people before you just step out on their limb and marry people. Um, a la Patrick Mahomes and Brittany, they've been together since high school. So like, and they just got married a couple years ago. So you got to really get to know your partner, build trust. Trust is not built overnight. It's not built in a day, and it's really built in the amount of time that you set as a couple. But I just say you really need to know your partner, know whoever you're getting with, because yes, they're bad people, and we can't filter through the people and say, no, you get a good person, no, you get a bad person because you have $1 million. That's just not how it works. We can get bad people, but fortunately we got with 2 great women. So it's not, I'm sorry, it's just not a way you can do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're dead on. You really need that time, or traumatic, or in some cases like lavish type changes or experience in life to really see a person's soul, I guess. Like, you don't know what a person is capable of until they're presented a situation that they never thought they would ever see themselves in. And that's when, like, that true character, the true underlying voice speaks out and says, what are you going to do in this situation? Like, when you don't have time to think, it's pure instincts. It's the voice in your head that's been there your entire life. So, like you said, it's good that the situation is over with. And we saw Xavier Worthy. He's got a different look about him. We're hoping he'll come back for this year, and maybe the number one receiver, depending on Rashee Rice and his recovery for last season. But he's set it for good things, and it's just reassuring that it was not as much fault on him as it was her in the situation itself. But it takes several people to make that relationship work. So the fact that it didn't work out, and you have the separation, and then the big story that comes out regarding it, it's just unfortunate that, like I said, that was exposed to people like us and the media and sports media, and just tabloid type media in general, because human being issues should be settled in private. Like, all fights should be settled amongst the individuals, shouldn't have the third party involvement, etc., etc. It's just unfortunate. It's a sad story that it had to come out. Not necessarily a positive ending, but it's a ending that I guess is satisfying because it allows it to end. Like, as simple as that. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, the best way to put it, I think, is the Chiefs don't need any more distractions. They've been distracted enough. I mean, to put a capper on it, that's the best way that this could possibly handle, because we got other stuff that's coming down the pipe possibly for us. So, this is a highlight for us right now.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
And because the Chiefs are such a polarizing team now, and are being like up in the spotlight, and one of the most hated teams, like we'll get into here in a short bit. But it means that all of our players, or players coming onto the team that are involved with stuff, is immediately, if not national news, all over social media, passed around a bunch. And like, that's the sentiment. Oh, the Chiefs can't stay out of the public eye for all the wrong reasons, and blah blah blah. And like I just asked you, it seems like there's no way to truly figure out who's worth keeping in your life, that benefits you the same way that you benefit them, without that vetting process. And there's going to be the mistakes, or miscommunications, bad decisions and choices, but that's just a part of growing up and life itself. So Xavier Worthy, he's young. I mean, I don't think he's 22 years old at this point. He barely has time to drink legally, let alone figure out how to balance millions of dollars. He's already got a giant car collection, so at least he's chosen his lane and stuck. He has his interests and passions, and focus on that. That's a good strategy to staying out of trouble again. That's for sure. Just stick with your hobbies and don't let other things and distractions take you away from that, and allow you to focus and be successful. So like we say, we're rooting for Xavier Worthy. We're glad that this at least has some conclusion to it. There's closure around it, and hopefully allows Xavier Worthy and the rest of the Chiefs roster to stay out of legal cases like this, other than the Rashee Rice case that is still ongoing, and we wonder if it will rear its ugly head next season.
Exactly. Hopefully not. Like I said, hopefully this is this is it for them. We hear this and that's it. But hopefully maybe more to come. To be continued.
Yeah, for sure. But no more about this story, because it's said and done. The drama's dropped, and we can officially move on. But before we move on to our next topic, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like or comment so we can reply and interact with you and make you a part of the show. If you listen to us on Spotify, please rate us 5 stars so we can increase our reach in the playlist. Follow us and all our contributors on all the social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X. If you'd like to come on and talk Chiefs, message us so we can potentially set that up. Do you enjoy written content? Subscribe to our Substack. We have both a free and a $5 a month subscription, and post on there frequently. In fact, Braxton just put out his team builder article for this week a few hours ago. So if you want to get access to that, make sure to subscribe to our paid Substack, and that'll get you access to that. And if you have any interest in being a contributor on the writing staff, feel free to reach out and we'll be in touch. It would help support the brand if you would purchase our merch, like the shirt that I'm wearing currently. Message to set up an order for one of these, or 2 or 3, and this will allow us to expand our inventory options. Thanks for being a part of this channel, and if there's any partner that's listening to this interested in sponsoring the show or any other content that we produce, please reach out. Now, back to the show. Simmons True Hate. So I wonder what you're thinking, because in the thumbnail, it clearly says that it's not true hate. But as soon as I heard this being said, I had to immediately name it True Hate, because to me, that's what it comes across. So on Kay Adams' show, safety Justin Simmons was on, and he voiced his thoughts about joining the Chiefs. And in no uncertain terms, he proclaimed he'd rather beat the Chiefs than join them. So how does that make you feel, knowing the Chiefs are the most hated team now, And would you want Justin Simmons on the roster if he changed his mind?
Well, of course, I want the Justin Simmons on the roster. He's been one of the best safeties in the league. And the only guy that Mahomes takes his hat off to and says that he hates playing against. And if you want to really talk about it and get down to the nitty gritty, the only guy that it really can pick Patrick Mahomes off almost every time that he sees him. He finds a way to get another ball from Patrick Mahomes, and it really doesn't happen a lot. I know it happened a lot these past couple of years, but he's not really a turnover machine. The comp was Brett Favre, but he hasn't been Brett Favre. However, Justin Simmons, I think, shares the same sentiments as a lot of guys in the AFC West, to the likes of like guys like Max Crosby, to the likes of guys that of like probably Derwin James. Those gritty nose guys, they probably had opportunity to always leave their team and possibly go join a contender such as the Chiefs, but would never do nothing, would never do a thing like that, being that they're in their inner division, and that's an interdivision rival at this point. It's kind of you're kind of bred to not like the Chiefs if you play for the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Raiders. And if you're really one of their key corner pieces, which is Justin Simmons was up there with the Broncos, it's kind of embedded in you to where you just couldn't do anything like that. I know we've seen guys to the likes of Derek Johnson probably go play for the Raiders, but he didn't play for long. But you just usually don't see guys that are true to their team, kind of go and play for their divisional rival. They'll pick different teams, but that's something that they probably aren't willing to compromise. And some people want to slay the dragon. I think Justin Simmons is just speaking from a place where in sports we kind of don't speak from that place anymore. We're kind of scared to say things that other people would say. No, I don't want to go win a ring. I know it's easy. I can go join that team, yes, and probably win a ring this year. But no, I want to defeat him. I want to be the guy that took him down and beat him, and said, yeah, I did it. I conquered the mountain. I climbed it. And you see it. He can't be beat. So obviously, I think if he has a real opportunity and that's the only opportunity left on the table, I know Justin Simmons probably takes it. So I'm not going to say that the hate is really that true. How bad do you want to play football? Is the real question, because he is up there in age, and I feel like if he was going to be signed, he'll be signed by now. But I don't think the hate is really true. However, I do think that he is just playing a little bit of old school football. Not everybody wants to be Kevin Durant. I was saying this today to my girlfriend. I like Kevin Durant kind of messed up sports when he decided to just go join the Golden State Warriors. Now, we love it here in Kansas City. We love winning championships, but it's kind of a messed up thing to not be able to win where you're at, and to be like, oh, okay, you can't beat them, join them. So it's kind of a messed up mindset, and that's kind of new school. Old school players such as Michael Jordan and other guys like that, they weren't leaving their teams. They were trying to win championships where they were at. So hats off to Justin Simmons, but if you get an opportunity, oh God, I think you take your opportunity to go win a ring because you have another chance to re-up again. So I think he'll temper those words.
I get that. And your point, yeah, if I was Justin Simmons, like, why wouldn't I want to be on a potential Super Bowl winning roster? Why wouldn't I want to win a Super Bowl ring? Like, I understand majority of your career has been playing against the Chiefs and against Patrick Mahomes, but like, to me, you have enough hate that you won't join that team in any circumstance. Like, we've discussed that pairing makes sense, especially when the Chiefs did not have for sure safety help. And thank you, Dale, for keeping us honest. We've like, why wouldn't you want to be on the team that can get you a Super Bowl win? Like, are you that like upset at the team existence that you would want to like not be involved in that process? Like, us as fans assume if you're in the NFL, your main goal is to win the Super Bowl. And I guess most of the players, that is not in fact their prime goal. Getting paid or having the like financial freedom for generational wealth, that may be the absolute number one. And if that's the case, that's completely fine. But to some degree, there's also rankings in terms of where you stand, and like it or not, winning championships is always brought up in terms of what makes you the best or top tier at it. Safety not up there with cornerback by any means, but like players are compared with their Super rings. Like that's the thing the team works to end the season getting. It's not just to get your paychecks while you get through each and every week. So if you're a guy who's proven to be a winner, the Chiefs up until last week, before they signed Mike Edwards, were in a position where they needed veteran safety help in case Jaden Hicks wasn't ready to truly take over that Justin Reed spot, or just to have some flexibility in terms of the free safety. Like, I was surprised that we didn't hear news of the pairing at least talking before that, but to me now it almost seems like Justin Simmons wasn't even entertaining the conversation. So it's like, did Brett reach and like did he talk with Spagnuolo and Merritt and say, hey, is this a guy that you'd be interested in? And was it like no or yes or maybe or price is right or whatever the case? Because it makes too much sense on paper that you should make this pairing work. And then a quote comes out saying, I want to beat the Chiefs, I don't want to join them. I get you've already played against the Chiefs a bunch in your career, but it almost sounds like a slighted quote. I don't know if I'm just thinking like too much into it, but it doesn't make sense. Essentially, why don't you want to be on a Super Bowl winning roster, or why didn't the Chiefs reach out and say, would you like to try to compete for a ring, like Andy Reid says to every player that he tries to sign? Is, hey, do you want to come play for me? You want to win a Super Bowl? Like, that's always the mantra they say. So just why wasn't that enough?
And I say it's yeah, I feel like it's true. But I feel like honestly, these guys are go with the win guys. Myles Garrett wanted to be out of Cleveland. Next thing you know, he was signing a contract extension. Like, these guys go with the win. Period. Point blank. It's good until it's not good no more. It's good until it's August, or it's good until it's October, and you still sitting on the couch wishing you had a job. Then maybe you looking like, dang, I should have probably took that offer. I'm not worried about where I'm playing. I just want to put a jersey on. I wish I was playing football. So it's all good until it's not good no more. Maybe there were all different offers on the table, and he said, this is just my last one because I really just don't like them. I don't want to even, I really just can't stand anything that has to do with them. So, and it's guys like that probably push the offer all the way to the bottom, and just because they don't like the team or like the structure or like what's going on. So he has a reason. I mean, he can do that because you have the ability to, you have the option to say no and not like stuff. So if he just doesn't like the Chiefs, he just doesn't like them. So there's nothing wrong with that. I just think he just may have been a victim of the moment. He's just been talking a little bit. He may have had some different money out there. That just might not be out there no more. So, or it may still be out there. He may be yet to sign somewhere. So, but I think if it was out there, he would have been signed, especially with his age. They're not waiting until they get all these draft guys in to come sign you and have you compete and try and possibly lose a younger guy's position to an older guy. So I think that the move was going to be made. It was going to be made. And if that was what held you back from possibly going to chase the championship, then more power to you, brother, because that was probably your one chance to get back to the table again after after this year. So good, more power to you, like I said.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, what's like most strange to me about this is, like, Justin Simmons is arguably a better player than Mike Edwards, but at this point in this defense, they play the same role, and you're absolutely right that at this point they looked at their young options and said that was better than the Justin Simmons. But what's more perplexing to me is we would assume that players want to come to Kansas City just to kind of get a ring or get like extra accolades on their achievements stat sheets. Kind of similar to how it did happen in New England, where players did go there for like, if not pay cuts for the same value, but just wanted to play there. We're just not seeing that happen in Kansas City. Do you attribute that to like the philosophy of the team? Like they don't want to do that? Because with Andy Reid and Brett Beach, it can't seem like it's that bad of a spot, you know? If you're going to go play for Bill Belichick and have this no nonsense guy and seems like strict and, you know, straight to the point, Andy Reid seems much more personal and like allows you to be yourself. That it, I want, is that just not appealing? And that plus a ring, like what is the thing in your mind that says the Chiefs should be getting key free agents who just want a ring whenever possible, and that's just not the case? Is it the players' fault or is it the team's philosophy to avoid those?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna say it's the players or the team's fault. I'm just gonna say it's microcosm of the league. I mean, you can't build your team through free agency every single year. If you're signing nothing but free agents, you and me both know that eventually that position is gonna be what a big glaring hole, like our left tackle position is, or like our safety position, our corner, whatever position was before we started eventually getting guys like Brian Cook and drafting guys like Jordan Hicks and Jaden Hicks. So you have to um, be able to draft well at a position, or you have to be able to sign guys in free agency. And I think the Chiefs did that well. And eventually they just started they started drafting guys in positions where they were signing guys, and now in which they don't have to do that anymore. You did see 3-year deals for safeties when they came in, Tyrann Mathieu being the first one. And then, okay, we didn't really have anybody to come in to kind of take over for Tyrann. In that draft, we draft Juan Thorhill. He gets hurt. He's not really the guy that we wanted him to take over. We let him go. He walks in free agency, gets paid by the Cleveland Browns. Now he's in Pittsburgh, gets paid by them again. However, he fell into our lap kinda. Then we move on and we sign Justin Reid to another 3-year deal. Eventually, we draft Brian Cook. We like what we see from Brian Cook. He plays with Justin Reid. He gets hurt in his second year, but plays absolutely tremendous in his first year. Goes on to win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, I think you just ended up getting talent, and eventually Justin Reid moves on, which is this year, but he plays his 2 years out. We find Jaden Hicks in his final year here, which I mean was a telltale sign for any Chiefs fan that's watching the game. We just know how the roster works. Once we find a guy that is younger, faster, stronger, and cheaper at your position, that means you become expendable, which Justin Reid did. So I think it's just a microcosm of just everything. Evolution is what I think you can say. And now we have positions of need like left tackle. And we know that me and you both know that that's a hard position. You're not just going to get out of here and go find a guy and give him $50 million to play left tackle and it'd be a question mark. You're going to know for sure that he's going to be able to come in and protect your quarterback. So I think they just didn't have the ability to be able to make a splash signing in that particular area of need this year. So you didn't probably see that like you've seen in years past with safeties and corners and edge rushers when they had a little bit more of expendable cash and the price wasn't as high. I think it's just a microcosm of evolution, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, we're hoping that Jalen Moore can kind of take that spot, but we also would not be surprised if, you know, the first pick or two named for the Chiefs a few weeks from now is a tackle that we hope is the left tackle of the future, kind of how we've had that same talk about mid-round choices the past 2 or 3 seasons since. But yeah, you know, like you're right. It must come down to the faith in the young guys to step up, because I don't think, especially with what we've seen, those like short 3-year deals for a guy who's coming on his second contract, maybe his third if it's like a 1-year type deal after his original team, but still young. And at this point, Justin Simmons is over 30 years old. I don't know if his legs are, you know, completely gone now, but the player name is flashy, so the idea of linking up in some capacity is always intriguing. But we also brought in Darrell Revis one year, and that amounted to absolutely nothing. So you can't win them all, can't predict them all, and maybe it just comes down to Brett Veach wanting and enjoying the draft process and wanting to find that perfect balance of find your cornerstones, find those players that you absolutely cannot live without on your roster, and then the other guys that you keep cycling in and like getting excited about finding who's your cornerstones and who's the guy that you have to replace and who's the replacement option. So, it's too bad that this connection didn't work. Whether or not it's because Simmons truly does not like the Chiefs or the Chiefs weren't interested or whatever the case, but it's just a shame that we didn't get to see those big name pairings because it felt like we've been due for the players that want to come here to win the ring, and we hope that this is like a redemption year. But alas, not meant to be. Obviously, like you said, if he's still sitting on the couch, and it feels like the Chiefs have not seen enough in their young secondary prior to that, and Mike Edwards can't necessarily take on everything that needs to be done, then maybe call him up and say, hey, you still only want to beat us. We're the only team calling you right now. Maybe that'll change his mind. But anything else you have about Justin Simmons or anything along that lines?
Nope. Spend you later, Justin.
All right. Yep. Well, once a Chiefs hater, always a Chiefs hater. That's what we learned. So that brings us to our final topic of the evening, which I have called luxury pick. And you may be asking, why have I called it luxury pick? Well, it's because the Chiefs were named the fourth most complete team heading into this year's draft, according to the power rankings from Sports Illustrated. So, behind a couple other teams, according to them, the Chiefs have the most complete roster, the fourth most. So, us at Red Kingdom Media and others around, we pointed out the glaring holes. Lonnie, you listed quite a few that you've seen just in the last segment alone. Do you feel like KC is able to take we're calling it a luxury pick or a swing for the fences type pick for a player that isn't necessarily a position of need or a player that is a key position or a trench player? Do you feel like the Chiefs are able to make this kind of risky choice, or do you feel like they need to stay firm, make the necessarily draft picks to build for future and not for that short-term flashy success?
I think the Chiefs better stay firm, or it'll be ugly. We'll be talking about who's possibly about to lose their job coming into this next season. I don't think the offensive line can continue to be a question. They were absolutely embarrassed in the Super Bowl. There's nothing else to talk about. You go grab another 4-3 wide receiver and trot them out in front of Chiefs Kingdom, thinking that that's going to have people excited. I think you'll be in for a rude awakening. So I think they have to go get a trench player. They need to go get someone inside, whether it be a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, preferably an offensive lineman. They need to act as if they're trying to help their offensive line, which looked atrocious in the Super Bowl. And it was really a weak spot on the offense all year. The only bright spot is that you won 15 games with such a horrible offensive line, which makes you think, oh my God, what can he do with a halfway decent offensive line? So I think the Chiefs definitely go get a trench pick here. They definitely are trying to find the best hidden gem offensive lineman. I'm sorry if it's a Kingsley Suamati. I'm sorry if it's a Wanya Morris, but you guys will be screaming if it's an Eric Fisher. So we are hoping I know the Chiefs are hopeful that they could probably find somebody down there in those later picks, but it definitely has to be a trench player. It cannot be. I know people are loving to hear the name Isaiah Bond, and how he's been dropping and moving all around the board. I just don't think the Chiefs can do that. I love Luther Burden too. I'm Mizzou all the way through, but I just can't see the Chiefs doing that. You adding a weapon like that, and you, Dale, everybody in Chiefs Kingdom knows that the Chiefs were absolutely exposed by the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Now you can say yes, they had a guard at tackle, but you should have had answers to that tackle position 2 or 3 years ago. Me and you both know that. And they hadn't had the answers to that. They've been throwing stuff at the wall and it hasn't been sticking. And you can't do that when you have a multi-billion-dollar quarterback dropping back every time and you want to throw it 20 times a game. You have to have a feasible line. So I think the Chiefs go get a trench pick here, whether it be a guard or a tackle, but they cannot, I repeat, cannot go try and do the flashy, cute stuff and run it out in front of us and say, oh, my God, look at this 4.3 speed, because we don't want to see that. Is he going to be able to get the ball to him? No, he's not, because he doesn't have anybody blocking for him. So make the right pick. Do what you need to do. Do what you're supposed to do. And go get somebody in the trenches.
So last year, I think going into the draft for 2024, I think we said as Chiefs fans, the biggest needs the Chiefs have is another number one wide receiver, a potential left tackle, a player to potentially hold the clipboard or take filler spot for Travis Kelce, and potentially find a Justin Reed replacement if, in fact, the Chiefs did not choose to re-sign him, which we know the result after last year. And the Chiefs in the first 4 picks of the draft did exactly that. Obviously not in the order that we want, because Kingsley did not, turn out to be that left tackle, but the Chiefs traded a 3rd round pick in order to go up higher to ensure the pick of Kingsley. So he was good enough that the Chiefs used several choices. And the Chiefs trade up a little bit to make sure they get Xavier Worthy, who I can't remember how many other wide receivers taken. He wasn't the first one, but he was the fastest one. So, the Chiefs were willing, and would you consider Xavier Worthy to be a flashy luxury pick? Maybe to some degree. I think at that point, wide receiver was the biggest glaring need. But I think left tackle, like you said, has always been there. And, at this point, we're unconvinced of 2nd and 3rd round picks for tackles. But I've told you this several times, Lon. The end of the 1st round, it's a gamble when you take an offensive lineman, and even into the 2nd round, because if he's so good and is a left tackle, then some other team has probably needed one and took him way early. So that's when we start hearing the cases of some other offensive tackles that may or may not fall because of medical issues or a recent injury or something like that causes them to drop. And when you do that, you also add that wrench, and that's when you have players that turn out to be injury prone, and then they never truly play and make an impact on the field, which when you take a player, you hope to do that. And the philosophy of, if you take a player higher, then you expect them to contribute this much, and it's way more than this player down at the bottom you picked at the end that you expect this much out of. So if we go back to 2023, would you consider Felix to be a luxury pick? I mean, it worked out that he's from the area, so it was a good story move. But I mean, the Chiefs were in need of some edge help, and so they chose an edge rusher, which is a trench player. But we also know that he hasn't necessarily been that contributing factor. And if you spend a 1st round pick, you want 1st round production. I mean, even George Karlaftis hasn't necessarily had a bunch of production. He's done well in the scheme, as I think we all assumed he would be, because he's the Spagnuolo edge player that he likes. But is Felix a luxury pick? We know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a luxury pick because, to be complete, the Chiefs needed a running back. But if the Chiefs ever consider taking a running back that early again, I think all of us would have PTSD around it. And I think we assume Brett Veach has learned his lesson around that and will only take players at those key positions, because right after Felix, they trade up a little bit and take Rashee Rice, and we've seen what he's been able to do, and Wanya Morris right after that, who at this point has been starting at left tackle most of the time and only got injured throughout his 2 seasons that have pushed him out of games. So, the Chiefs have been trying to use their choices at the players that are needed and like those key positions and in the trenches on offensive defense. But if the players don't pan out the way that you need them to, it doesn't matter if you're always doing it right. Like the Chiefs chose to choose Trent McDuffie, a trade up. And, we had been in need of a corner, but we'd also never really chosen a corner under Brett Veach. So it was like, would this ever happen? It will if the right player is there. So, it all comes down to talent evaluation. Maybe there is a secondary player and we're like, that's not a team need. But if the player can, absolutely shine and be a mainstay, then maybe the pick is worth it, or a tight end at 31, or Luther Burden if he falls that far. But that those are things that you can't predict. And I think the Chiefs are definitely going to take the left tackle of the future at 31. It's kind of presumptuous to just assume that to be the case, that no other team is going to find that player valuable, or that unfortunately the team was actually incorrect on their evaluation of this player and they do not have as much confidence in them as they once did, like we've seen in Kingsley, and how he's potentially being demoted to play guard this year after what we thought was going to be left tackle of the future right after he was drafted. So
yeah, I just don't see the Chiefs I don't see them going anything other than tackle. Like you said, hopefully they can find a Trent McDuffie, a guy that can come in and make an immediate impact to tackle. But like you said, it'll take some drastic trades, I think, to get up into that upper echelon of where they need to be. But hopefully they get a situation like they did with Trent McDuffie, where a guy's kind of slipping down the board and you get an opportunity to see you can jump in front of somebody. So you just never know. Let's see how things play out. And hope for the best, but we know what they need and what's going to be highlighted when it comes up for teams' needs with the draft. Left tackle is going to be number one. Tackle, offensive tackle, because that's what I like to highlight now. Tackle will be number one for sure.
Well, but that may be the case. That may be the tipping point, though, is late in the first round. It might be right tackles only. So would you want the Chiefs to trade up and ensure they take a tackle, even if you know that it's only taking Jawan Taylor's spot next year, and knowing that the Chiefs are still going to have to keep using late first round picks on tackles? I mean, the only time that a tackle has kind of worked is when we chose to trade our first round pick away in order to bring in Orlando Brown Jr. So the only times where tackle has worked is when we brought in a veteran in some capacity. The rookie tackles we've gotten have not been able to truly supplant themselves and be mainstays. So that's why we've had to resort to finding other ones and short bursts of potential, hoping that the Chiefs can bring the most out of it. So that's what I'm afraid of, Lonnie, is to be in that mindset means the Chiefs are always going to be picking an offensive tackle in the end of first round. And, if that player isn't good, then it becomes a wasted pick.
Yeah.
And the draft always has wasted picks. I mean, more than half of every roster is probably garbage. And that's no offense to those players. Those are just odds. But when you say first round pick, it has first round expectations, and first rounders are the pick that like fan bases and owners feel like those are the players you can't miss on.
And it may take a couple tries, and that's what I'm getting at here. It may take you a year, it may take you 2 years, but that's when it comes to GM, your general manager. That's why they get paid the big bucks, and the scouting department gets paid the big bucks, and that's why I'm saying it will cause somebody to get fired. I know Brett Veach has been great, but this situation right here in particular will cause you to lose your job, especially when you have a good quarterback, a quarterback to the likes of Patrick Mahomes. So I don't know what they do. If it takes multiple picks, that's what it takes. If it takes you 2 years to figure it out, that's what it takes. What timeline does Hunt put on it and say, all right, if this happens again, since this is the expectation, then this is what's going to be the fallout from this situation. So I think it's only a matter of time. The pressure is mounted, I think, to the point to where it can't mount any further. If it takes you a year or 2 years to figure this out, what's the fallout from that? Because does that mean you're losing the Super Bowls? You're losing. Where are you losing at? Because somebody's got to get reprimanded. It has to be some type of change, and it has to be effective, because I don't think the Chiefs want to continue to see their quarterback struggle, especially in big games like that, especially with the same situation. Repetitive problems and not fixing it, that's just like blatantly ignoring your problem, and it's kind of just you're not caring at this point. So I think it gets fixed, and if it doesn't get fixed, and if it takes a year or 2 years for it to get fixed, then I think we're going to see some changes.
So you definitely do not agree that the Chiefs are a complete team then. That's for sure. Just because of the glaring need.
Yeah, I don't think they're complete. No, they're not complete. Until we can see Jalen Moore touch some grass or see somebody get in there and play that position definitively, the Chiefs are not safe.
I understand your skepticism around it, and you're justified in feeling that. I just feel like to do that and have that mindset is very dangerous, because if you know that that's your glaring need and you're always targeting that, then don't 31 other teams know that exact same thing about it? So like last year, we're like, the Chiefs are never going to be able to get, a star wide receiver in this draft. And, the Bills were willing to make that trade. So never say never, Justin Bieber style. But you would also assume if you have the same expectations time and time again about what a team is probably going to do in the draft, and you're a team that is already picking ahead of the Chiefs, can't you just kind of screw their plans up every single time? Like, we don't know if Kingsley was the first. And like, I think we all kind of assumed that the tackle that was taken by the Jaguars before Xavier Worthy, a few picks from there, that may have been a target the Chiefs were looking for, and he is a right tackle. So the Chiefs, like you said, may be interested in tackle of any kind from any side if they can just put a player there and never worry about it again. That is what the Chiefs hope out of offensive linemen. And tackle is still a need, if only just for backups, because injuries do occur, and when it's on the offensive line, it feels like it is the most glaring problem when it is a replacement, because the production kind of shuts down altogether, and the defense starts, balling out and flashing all over the screen. So the Chiefs need to work on that, and they're not going to be able to trade up for, Ashton Genty or anything. Like, we know that. If the best tight end is there, we probably can't justify picking that, or wide receiver, or some other things. And in the trenches is probably the best option. But it also comes down to where you're picking. Like, we know the Chiefs are going to be picking the end of the first round time and time again. And if literally 10 offensive tackles are chosen in the first round, do you really choose tackle 11? Like, are there really that many dominant players at that position in a draft? Like the odds say no. So like you got to have some incredible foresight to know this is a player that we want, and if we want him, we have to be in this range to even entertain that conversation. And even then, we still need something to happen. So like Xavier Worthy, that was great. I don't think that was necessarily the Chiefs like number one plan through that first round. I
Yeah.
think getting a tackle was what they wanted, but they settled on Xavier Worthy. We could argue Xavier Worthy is a luxury type pick because it is a wide receiver in the first round when you feel like the Chiefs should just take whoever offensive tackle is there because that is what they need, not necessarily what actually helps the team.
Yeah. And I'm saying whether it be tackle 11, 10, it doesn't matter. The Chiefs have to go find that story in this draft and like bring it to the foresight. So it needs to be a pick where Jeremy Fowler and them go into explaining it to, like, I love this pick. This was somebody that we weren't talking about. Nobody seen them going to do. Yeah, that's what they're going to have to do. That's what makes teams great. That's what separated Bill Belichick from the rest of these other guys that were GM and coaches and scouts. He could go find talent that no one else could see.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think. And Brett Veach has been. We praise him for his drafts. He has to go find that in this draft. Yes, you found a Jalen Moore, but you're going to have to go find it probably two more because we're going to need that type of competition at this position because you're coming off of a situation where you just won a Super Bowl. You were the most hated, yes, but you can say it's the Eagles, but it's really still you. You've round robin the whole league. The last time they looked at their schedule, they probably had a loss to the Chiefs, so they want to beat you. So anybody that's coming in that's going to play that position, they're going to get the best game of whoever's coming in there. And they're going to get your absolute best game. You're going to get Trey Hendrickson, Nick Bonito. You're going up against the best pass rushers in the league, the most evolutionized pass rushers, the ones with speed, strength, the ones that are just kind of just out of worldly type good. So, and that's just because you're playing on a team with a quarterback that's that good too. So, you have to be ready. And in order to be ready for that, you have to load a position up, and this is the position that they're gonna have to load up and figure out the diamonds in the rough, as we like to say. If they can't find those out, they shouldn't be making the big bucks, Clint. That's what I'm saying. I think we're kind of saying the same thing, but you're just putting it the nice way. They're gonna have to find that, and if they can't find that, I understand what you're saying. You shouldn't probably be don't throw 3 first round picks, but they got to find it, because if they don't find it, everything is about production. You're a season ticket holder. You don't want to see teams losing and not making the playoffs. So you don't want that. And I don't think Mark Donovan and the Hunt family wants that either. They want that money. So they have to figure it out. They better figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to take this. They're taking this seriously. We're not going to see another Clyde Edwards-Helaire choice anymore. And I'm not keep saying that to throw shade at the player. It's the position and the players around them. At that time, they believed that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the player that was going to make the Chiefs overall better. And I think at this point, they've learned from that mistake. And the first pick, or if any, the first several picks, are going to be players they believe will have an impact on the Chiefs roster, on the field in some capacity that first year or within that rookie contract. At this point, the Chiefs offensive line needs bodies. I agree with you there. They just need to be competent bodies or dependable bodies in some capacity. Can't just throw a pick at a player and then they never see the light of day. Can't Kavari Russell type. Can't spend a draft pick and they don't even make it to training camp because you're just absolutely shocked by something about them. The NFL has gotten better at kind of vetting these things out and identifying these traits or characteristics that they, covet or want to avoid. And, it needs to be said, this is the first year the Chiefs and Brett Veach will not have, members of his staff because they've departed to other teams. So we'll see a slightly varied version of Brett Veach this draft cycle to see what he does, because people that have been under him for a while are gone now. So those voices that he's relied on aren't there. So now we'll see, what's more of Brett Veach choices versus, the people that he was utilizing to help him do his job.
Yeah, and like you were saying, you said I know you don't. You said no, you don't like. They're gonna have to throw bodies at the position, and which they are. But like you said, just kind of hope that they're competent bodies and guys that can play the position. But all of this is a gamble, and that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna have to take a couple shots, and hopefully, like I said, something can stick to the wall, and they can find a tackle in the future. Hopefully, you can go find a Trey Smith in this draft. But my thing, I think, is what we're saying is you're only as good as your last shot or the previous shot that you took. So and shooters keep shooting. So you're gonna have to put up shots in order to make some. So with that being said, which means you're gonna have to probably waste some picks on tackles in order to get one to stick to the wall. And I think the best way to sum up what you were saying is no more Lucas Niangs. We can't have that. We cannot have that. If you're going to be getting somebody, no more Kingsley Suamatahias, no more Wyatt Morrises. If you're going to get somebody, we need to know that they need to work. But I think that Brett Veach has those three guys on his mind. And with that being said, I think they're going to try and go find somebody that is a definite. I don't think they're going to be playing around with this position. So, because we've seen picks like that. So, I wouldn't be surprised.
That's very true. The first draft after the losing Super Bowl that we had, Brett Veach was not clowned around. He made a lot of key adjustments to our roster. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, players like that came in all in one draft. So, one draft class can change everything. Lonnie, you already said it. It's a gamble. It's an off-season gamble. And that's why this show in particular is called Gridiron Gambit. It is the risk of the off-season and putting rosters together and getting to see the transformation of a team from one year to the next. Contemplate who can be on this team, who's not on this team, who's got potential, who fits, who doesn't fit. We talk about all that, and it has been a fun evening. Lonnie, thank you for joining me as always. Great talking to you. It was a fun show. I hope anybody out there enjoyed it, listened, watched, however you took us in. I hope you all enjoy your weekend and enjoy this draft season. We've got some more content coming around that. So, and if you want to watch the draft and have a draft party with us, we will be live for the first night on Thursday. We will pop in on Friday when we have our Chiefs selections. And then we will have a show once the draft has officially wrapped and can kind of go over the entire draft as a whole and figure out how our offseason went as we go into the training camp and regular season. So that has been our show. Have a great rest of your Friday night. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, go Chiefs.
Thanks for checking out this update straight from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate your passion, so please leave a like and follow us wherever you tune in from. See you next tailgate, your trusted source for all things Chiefs, Red Kingdom Media.